Today we'll be creating logo animations using Photoshop and After Effects. This is a really simple way compared to using only Photoshop to create GIF animations, and the animations are usually smooth because of the use of After Effects. We'll be creating the GIF contents in Photoshop and then importing the Photoshop file into After Effects. As you can see here, you see that there are two main difference between these two GIFs. If you use After Effects, the animations will be a lot more smoother compared to frame animations in Photoshop, in which you will be creating the puppet trap frame by frame in Photoshop, which is really hard compared to After Effects simple way. So without further ado, let's go right into the video. So the first thing we'll do is to import our file into Photoshop. I've already included this file into I've already dropped the link of this file in the description below, so you can grab it there to follow step by step. So the first thing we'll do is to isolate this subject from the background. So as usual, the easy way to do this is to just come here to select and click on subject, select subjects. So immediately Photoshop will do the job for us, and Photoshop is really good for subjects like this. You see, it's really perfect. And then when it has now selected the subject, you now Ctrl J to copy the layer, and then the background layer, you will now click on you hold Ctrl on your computer and then click on the thumbnail of the previous layer so that it will select the selection. Then you come here to select and come here to modify and expand it by just 4 pixels. So when you expand it by 4 pixels, oh my goodness, I mistakenly clicked on the text too. Let me Ctrl Z back. So now that it has been expanded by 4 pixels, you will now come here to your selection tool. You pick the quick selection tool and then you right click on the image and click on fill, or you should use content aware fill. Either of the two will work. Then you change this to content aware here and click OK, and then immediately the subject will be removed from the background. So now we have two layers. We have a layer of an empty subject and another layer of the subject only there. So with this, let's just save this and then go into our After Effects and then import it into our After Effects. Now that our After Effects is up and running, so the first thing to do is to create new composition, and you can name it anything you like. Currently I'm using NFT GIF, and then I'm using the size of 15 pixel by 1000. I will advise you not to go too big on the size so that it won't affect the size of the GIF. It's not good to have GIF above 50 MB. So the frame rate I have here is 30 frames per second, and then the duration is 10 seconds, and you click OK. When you are done, now let's import our Photoshop file into After Effects. So when you import it, don't just click OK. You should come here and change the footage to composition, and then make sure this is on editable layer style, so that when our Photoshop file is in After Effects, we'll be able to see it like an editable composition in After Effects. Now to make the animation faster, I usually leave this at quarter so that everything will be faster whenever I'm trying to load it. So but for this tutorial, I'll come back here to half. So now that our image is in, and we see that it's not even in landscape mode like the composition we created. So the right way to do that is to just double click on the composition and then come here and change the composition settings of the Photoshop file into the same size that we used the other time. So we use 15 by 1000 pixels, and then it's 10 seconds and 30 frames per second. Now that we've done that, all we have to do is just to resize the subject itself back into the normal size. So you click S here so that to bring out the scale and reduce the scale down till you are satisfied with what you're seeing. Now since this is good, and then now that we've done that, we'll come back here into our NFT GIF. You see that everything is now looking great. Now the next thing to do is to now add our puppet trap feature. Now that we are done with that, let's go into our puppet trap tool. So this puppet trap tool is a lot better than the puppet trap tool in Photoshop, because you can actually make keyframes as you are dropping the pin on the subject you have. For example, I drop the pin here. You will notice that when you go into our effects here in the puppets, you see that there is a mesh here. When you open the mesh, you go to deform, you will see the keyframe of the puppet pin here. That's the keyframe there. Let me move this away. So because this is a keyframe, so that means we can animate it anyhow we like, the same way we do any other animations in After Effects. So let's go right into what we're about to do. Let me Ctrl Z. So since we just want only the head to move and other parts of the body to just be in the same position, so we'll pin down the arm and all the rest of the body, including the neck. Okay, now that we are through with that, let's go right into the face. Now that we've pinned everything, we will now go into the future, maybe 1 second into the future, so that the head will move a bit to the front. So we'll now move the head, don't stretch it out too much. As you can see, I'm trying my possible best not to make the head shape deform. I think this still looks good. I feel like it has gone out too much. Let me just keep it here. Okay, now you see that when I go back here, it's actually looking good. So another trick that I learned about this puppet trap tool is to copy keyframes. For example, we want to make it go back to the original place that it is before. You know, if we try to take it back manually ourselves, you know, it won't be that perfect, because you just have to move this here. It won't be perfect like the original state. So we can actually copy the keyframes here and go here into deform, and then you hold shift on your computer, you hold shift, and then you click everything. When you've selected everything, then you open everything. When you've opened it, you see that you have access to the keyframes itself, and then you now select all the keyframes in the first frame. And when you are through with that, then you now create a new keyframe wherever you want to create it in, which is 2 seconds, and then you now Ctrl V on it. Let me go back again. I think I forgot to copy it. Let me select everything again, select all the keyframe, Ctrl C by copying it, and then go about 2 seconds into the future, since our head movement is on 1 second, and then you create a new keyframe and then Ctrl V on it. You see immediately the head is now back to the position. That's how to copy and paste keyframes, so it now be perfect loop now. See now. So that's just the advantage. Another way I used to make this animation a lot more smoother is to just select all the frames and then right click and click on frame assistance and easy ease everything, so that it will be a lot easier. It will be a lot smooth than the ones in Photoshop where we are just dealing with frames ourselves. So when you are through with that, you make everything the right duration, and bring your duration here, and then right click over the work area here. When you right click, you click on trim comp to work area, and immediately the composition will be trimmed to the original layer. You see how smooth it is. So when we export this out, you will see that it's a lot cooler than this, because of the, we reduce the resolution. I had to reduce it so that my After Effects will be a lot faster. So the right way I used to export my GIF is to come here into Media Encoder Queue. So you can export it as Adobe Media Encoder Queue, or you should export it as a render queue. Either ways you do it. If you use this render queue, there won't be a GIF option there for you. Let me click on it. You see that the options you have here is just QuickTime. This QuickTime is just movie format. AVI is the usual AVI format. You see that the GIF format is not here. So most times whenever I want to do this is when I have a backgroundless GIF. So let me just export this out for you to show you that you can actually turn this to a backgroundless GIF. So let me remove the background here. I've now removed the background. Let me go back here, and then you come here to File, Export, Render Queue again. So this is the second one that we have here. You come here to this, select QuickTime. When you are on QuickTime, you are supposed to have this RBG plus alpha format option. If it's not showing this way, like the way my own did, you select another format like AVI format, and then you come back here into QuickTime again. You now see that the format is now active. I don't know why After Effects does that for me. I don't know if it happens on you guys' computer too, but I usually have that. But that's how to solve that. Then you now select where you want it to save into. Currently I'm choosing this place and I'm naming it NFT, and then you click on render, and then when it renders, you now see that it will be an movie format that will be backgroundless. You see that the quality is a lot better now. So you now bring the movie file into Photoshop. You open Photoshop and you bring the movie file into it. Or while Photoshop is still loading, let's render the one that has background here, this second one here. So you come here into Exports, and then you click on Media Encoder Queue. So this one, Media Encoder doesn't export backgroundless GIF. So I'm just showing you two different ways here: the backgroundless version, or let me call it a transparent version, or the one that is not transparent. But for better quality, it's always advisable to use this Media Encoder Queue for the GIF that doesn't need to be transparent. When I mean, you guys should have understand like that, man. I know. So now that my Media Encoder is open, you might be surprised when you want to change this file format that you have two different GIF. Let me click here. When you click here to change your format, you see that there are two GIF here. There's GIF here and there's animated GIF here. Don't use this GIF. This GIF will export each frames of the animation as a picture. So it's more like creating each frame the same way the frame animations in Photoshop works. So you come here into animated GIF. Just register it into your brain that the first one that you see is the right one to use, so which is animated GIF. And you come here and click on OK, and then you start the export, and you see that it will be really fast, and that will be how to export it out in Adobe Media Encoder. So let's go into our Photoshop here. When you open your MOV video into Photoshop, you see that Photoshop will actually recognize that it doesn't have any background. By the way, if you didn't see this timeline when you import your video into your Photoshop, just come here into Windows and go down here and pick this timeline here, and you see that the timeline will come out for you. Let me play out the animation for you. You see, Photoshop actually sees that it is transparent. So let's come here into File, and then come here into Export and Save for Web. So we are trying to export the GIF out as a transparent GIF, in which the settings has to be different. So the first thing you have to check is this check box here, this transparency, make sure you check it, or else Photoshop will give it a default color here. Any default color you pick here will be chosen as the background color for the GIF. So since we want it to be transparent, you come here and pick adaptive. I'm always using adaptive unless if size matters for the GIF. For example, maybe you want to use the GIF as your Discord banner or something like that. If you want me to make a video tutorial on how to adjust GIF sizes into a specific size you want, that's when I used to use all this perpetual and selective mode. So, or sometimes I even use restrictive. That's if the colors are not many. So just maintain this adaptive, no data, transparency, interlaced on, and then I usually off this unless if I want it to have a specific color at the edges of the transparency. You understand me? Maybe you want some part of the edge to have black color. You now select a specific color there, and then you see that it's now has black color. This one is actually good when you know the background you want to use the GIF on. So you just pick that exact color so that the GIF edges will be a lot smoother. But for our situation, we want it to be universal, so we are not picking anything. And you click on save here and you select the location you want it to save in. Currently I'm looking for this location. Let me just use this like that, and then you come here and you click on save. Please don't click on done, just make sure you click on save so that you Photoshop will understand that you are actually trying to save, not through with your export settings. So we've exported our transparent GIF, and then we've exported our non-transparent, or let me call it normal GIF. So let's go check them out. So let me first go into this non-transparent. Okay, now you see that everything is looking nice. You see the quality compared to that Photoshop style. See, it's a lot better. So I just feel like this is a lot better than that Photoshop frame animation crap that we did in the last tutorial. So I always advise you to use After Effects Puppet Trap 2 over the Photoshop Puppet Trap 2.